There comes a moment in every quiet person's life when silence isn't peaceful anymore. It's suffocating. You've done everything right. You've stayed kind, honest, fair. And for what? You're overlooked at work, taken for granted in relationships, respected by no one, used by everyone. You don't get power, you get pity. And the worst part? You still believe it's noble to suffer. This is the lie they fed you, that goodness will eventually be seen, that the world will reward your integrity. But what if the game was never built for that? Machiavelli never told us to be cruel. He told us to stop being naive. And today, we're going to uncover why staying good without being strategic is the very thing destroying your life. This isn't a video about becoming evil. It's about becoming untouchable. You were raised with a script, handed to you in pieces by parents, teachers, movies, society. Be honest, be kind, wait your turn. People will see your value. But what happens when they don't? What happens when you follow the script and get punished for it? You give your best and they take advantage. You stay loyal and they move on without you. You're told it's noble to forgive, to stay soft, to not play games. But somehow, the ones who rise are always the ones who do. This is where most people break. Not from betrayal, but from confusion. Because your suffering isn't caused by cruelty, it's caused by your refusal to see that not everyone lives by the same story. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago, that most people are ruled not by morality, but by fear, desire, and self-preservation. And here's where it gets deeper. Psychologically, you carry an unconscious belief, if I'm good enough, people won't hurt me. But that belief is what keeps you in cycles of emotional sabotage. It turns you into your own jailer. Because you're not being rejected for being too kind. You're being ignored because you don't know how to make your goodness powerful. Have you ever felt like you're walking through life unseen, even when you're doing everything right? Like you're screaming in a room full of people and no one turns around. You try harder, get quieter, smile more, and it only makes it worse. Here's what no one tells you. People don't respond to your heart. They respond to your presence. And right now, your presence is muted. Not because you're weak, but because you've been trained to hide your power, to think of it as dangerous. You learned to feel guilty when you say no. You learned to flinch when someone raises their voice. You learned to soften your edges so people wouldn't leave. But Machiavelli would call this what it is: a lion locked in a glass cage, majestic in nature, invisible in impact. He wrote that a leader must know how to be both lion and fox, strong but also calculating, kind but also aware, because kindness without defense is camouflage for those who hunt. And now the real question begins to emerge. If you've been taught to play fair, but everyone else is playing to win. What happens to you? You've been wearing armor your whole life, but it's made of glass. It looks like strength, politeness, agreeableness, sacrifice. But the moment someone pushes, it cracks. You say yes when you want to say no. You let them interrupt, talk over, decide for you. And when you feel the anger rising, you shove it down because good people don't get angry, right? But that anger is a signal, a flare from the parts of you you've silenced, the part that wants boundaries, the part that's tired of smiling when it's breaking inside, the part Machiavelli would have told you to reclaim, not suppress. Because here's what he understood. People aren't motivated by fairness. They're motivated by power and the perception of it. So ask yourself, what do people see when they look at you? Do they see someone who can't be messed with, or someone who won't fight back? And this is the moment most people never come back from, when they realize they've been complicit in their own invisibility. Not because they're bad, but because they were told that being seen meant being liked, not being respected. But what if there's another way? What if you didn't have to choose between kindness and strength? There's a dangerous myth we're taught early on, that if your heart is in the right place, the world will see it and reward you. But Machiavelli warned us, the world does not reward intentions. It rewards outcomes. It rewards perception. You could be the most loyal, most honest, most well-meaning person in the room, and still be the easiest one to betray. Because your virtue, without armor, isn't noble. It's exposed. You walk into battles wearing velvet, hoping the softness will be enough. But no one fears velvet. They respect iron. And this is the Machiavellian truth that most people run from. If people don't fear crossing you, they eventually will. This doesn't mean cruelty. It means presence. It means understanding that being underestimated is not a compliment. It's a warning sign. So here's the question you have to answer. Do people hesitate before they take advantage of you? Or do they expect you'll forgive them every time? If they don't hesitate, it means they've read you, and what they saw was someone easy to manipulate. But what if that perception could be changed, not through anger, but through calculated presence? People don't test your goodness because they're evil. They test it because they're human. Machiavelli saw this clearly. People are not loyal by nature. They're loyal when it benefits them, or when it costs too much to betray you. And the truth is, if your kindness has no cost, people will take from it endlessly. Not always out of malice, often just because they can. There's a moment you probably remember, maybe recent, maybe from years ago, when someone crossed a line with you and you did nothing. Not because you didn't care, but because you were afraid of seeming too much, too emotional, too confrontational, too difficult. So instead, you let it go. And what did that silence buy you? Did they come back more respectful? Or did they do it again, only worse? You see, the more you excuse, the more they assume. Every boundary you fail to assert becomes a door that disappears. And people don't knock on doors that aren't there. They just walk in.
This is what Machiavelli warned against, that rulers, or anyone who wants influence, must set expectations early. Because once people form an impression of your softness, they do not revise it, they exploit it. And now, here you are, good-hearted, generous, invisible. But what if you could change that, not by becoming someone else, but by reclaiming the parts of yourself you abandoned to be accepted?
Power isn't loud. It's not in how much space you take up. It's in how people respond when you say nothing at all. There's a kind of person who can walk into a room and shift the atmosphere without raising their voice, without proving anything. It's not magic, it's strategy. Machiavelli understood that true influence comes from presence, from the subtle signals people can't explain but instantly feel. The way you hold eye contact, the silence you allow to hang before you answer, the tone that doesn't beg to be understood but expects it. This kind of presence isn't aggressive. It's measured, like a flame, controlled, contained, yet everyone knows it could burn. And that's the shift most people never make. They think the only way to be strong is to be loud. But strength isn't in shouting. It's in knowing that your silence says enough. Ask yourself this: when you say no, do people accept it, or do they think it's negotiable? That answer tells you everything about the presence you've built, intentionally or not. And here's the Machiavellian pivot. You don't need to become feared. You need to become felt. Because in a world that rarely listens, the person who commands attention without asking is the one who cannot be ignored. We've been sold the idea that honesty means openness. That if you're a good person, you should be transparent. No walls, no filters, no secrets. But Machiavelli would laugh at that. Because the more people know about you, the easier it is to predict you. And anything predictable can be manipulated. Power isn't just in what you say, it's in what you withhold. A powerful person is like a locked vault in plain sight. Everyone knows it's valuable, but no one knows exactly what's inside. That's what makes them careful, curious. It's not deception, it's discretion. Think of how often you've over-explained yourself, how often you gave justifications no one even asked for, not because they deserved your truth, but because you were afraid of being misunderstood. That fear, that's the crack people look for. Machiavelli believed a leader must appear as open and virtuous as necessary, but never let their full intentions be seen. Because once people can read you clearly, they can play you easily. And this might hurt to hear, but some of your deepest pain came from sharing too soon with people who never earned your trust. So the shift begins here. Not silence out of fear, silence out of control. Not absence of expression, control of narrative. Because when no one knows exactly what you're thinking, they're forced to respect the possibility that you're thinking more than they are. The most magnetic people are never always there. They appear, leave an impact, then vanish. Like a shadow that moves just out of reach, There felt more in absence than presence. Machiavelli warned rulers against becoming too familiar, because the more available you are, the less you're valued. Power fades with overexposure. And this doesn't just apply to kings, it applies to you. That friend who never returns your energy, that colleague who only notices you when they need something, that person who stops chasing the moment you stop giving. They weren't drawn to you. They were drawn to how easy you made access feel. So ask yourself, when was the last time you pulled back intentionally? Not to punish, but to restore mystery, to reset the terms. Because here's what Machiavelli would teach you. Scarcity breeds value. You don't earn respect by always being present. You earn it by making your presence mean something when it happens. Unpredictability is not chaos. It's control. It keeps people from assuming. It forces them to wait, to wonder, to pay attention. And when used with precision, it becomes a quiet kind of power, one that doesn't ask for attention because it has already taken it. You can command attention. You can shape perception. You can even strike fear into people's hesitation. But if you don't control yourself, none of it lasts. This is where most people collapse. Not because someone else beat them, but because they handed over power in a moment of weakness. An impulsive reaction, a storm of emotion, a truth told to the wrong person at the wrong time. Machiavelli didn't preach about brute strength. He spoke of restraint. He admired the leader who could delay gratification, who could wait, observe, calculate, who, like a general, could win without ever drawing his sword. Because power isn't in how hard you hit, it's in knowing when not to. So here's the shift. Don't confuse expression with effectiveness. Don't believe that feeling something means you must act on it. That burning urge to correct someone, to defend yourself, to react right now. That's the bait, and most people take it. They expose themselves. They lose leverage. But when you can stay still, when you can feel everything yet reveal nothing, you become untouchable. Because the person who cannot be provoked cannot be controlled. By now, you've seen it. Kindness without strength is currency no one respects. Transparency without caution is an open vault in a room full of thieves. And presence without mystery is noise in a world already too loud. Machiavelli wasn't telling you to become a villain. He was handing you the blueprint of survival in a world that smiles while it devours. Because the truth is, the world doesn't punish goodness. It punishes the naive performance of it. And once you see this, once you feel the weight of it, something inside you begins to shift. You stop trying to be understood by everyone. You stop proving your worth where it's already been ignored. You start conserving your energy, watching more, speaking less, not because you're afraid, but because you finally realized control is quieter than chaos. Machiavelli's final gift wasn't fear, it was clarity. You are no longer a player reacting to a crooked game. You are the architect behind the mirror. You now know how perception is shaped, how presence is built, how silence can be a scalpel, and patience a weapon. The world still spins with the same shadows, but now you move differently within them. Not loud, not soft, but intentional. And that, finally, is what makes you dangerous.